The beeping pulled me back first. Not voices, not warmth, just a high-pitched rhythm that sounded more like a timer counting down than a heartbeat being tracked. The lights buzzed above, sterile and unkind, casting long shadows against the linoleum floor. I opened my eyes slowly, every muscle resisting. My mouth was parched, my tongue foreign. When I tried to speak, only a rough whisper scraped out. I scanned the room. No flowers, no cards, no framed photos. A laminated sign about visiting hours flapped lightly under the air vent. Beside my bed, a table empty. No phone, no familiar coat, no sign anyone had waited. How long? I thought, where are they? Footsteps broke the stillness. A nurse stepped in, clipboard in hand, her eyes avoiding mine. She fiddled with the bag like it mattered. We haven't had any family contact since, she began, then cleared her throat. They signed a release of responsibility a few weeks ago. A pause. Then her eyes met mine, soft and unsure. I'm sorry. I wasn't. They didn't forget me. They erased me. The silence that followed wasn't painful. It was surgical. When the nurse returned later, she brought weak broth and a new 4-line. Her name tag read Carla. She lingered longer this time, gaze darting around the room. Your mother-in-law came once, she said hesitantly. She didn't ask about your condition, just took your jewelry and tablet, said something about decluttering. I didn't answer. My fingers found the bed rail, clenched tightly. The 4-line tugged slightly as I shifted. My shoulders ached from stillness. My bones felt foreign. She used to say family was everything. I murmured mostly to myself. Polished hands, painted smiles. Meredith Lovelace had always worn duty like a brooch. Pretty, visible, never sincere. What about my husband? I asked, though the answer already pressed against my ribs. Carla hesitated. He dropped off a house key, didn't come inside. A moment passed, 1,000 heartbeats in the gap. I was traded for convenience, I whispered. When they handed me a phone 3 days later, it was a reset device. No wallpaper, no contacts, no apps. Blank, like I'd never existed. I sat upright, slow and shaking, then tapped through old memory tricks, backups, syncs, hidden folders. Somewhere buried, my old analyst habits kicked in. A partial backup loaded. The message preview popped first. From Jessa. She's a burden. I'm done. Let's move forward. Not I hope she recovers, or how long will this last? Just done. My heart didn't break. It crystallized. They hadn't waited. They'd moved on. I wasn't unconscious. I was just out of their way. 3 nights later, the door creaked open around 2 a.m. I expected Carla. Instead, a tall man stepped in, dressed in a black wool coat, the kind people wear when they don't know how long they'll be staying. Aurelia Vance. His voice was steady, clipped. Kind. I nodded, more curious than cautious. My name is Marcus Rowe. I used to work with your mother, Delaney Cross. I was her attorney and friend. I have something for you. He pulled out an envelope, thick and sealed, the notary stamp glinting under the light. Dated 2 weeks before the accident. Inside, a trust document. $5 million. Triggered upon confirmed abandonment by all immediate legal guardians or spouse. Aurelia Vance was legally and financially alone, and her mother had planned for it. She knew. I asked, blinking through static shock. He nodded. She told me to wait, that if this moment came, you'd need to know someone still saw you, even before you disappeared. My throat tightened, but not from pain. She'd believed me, even before it happened. I hugged the papers, not for the money, for the message between the lines. They didn't erase me completely. Someone remembered. Later, I found the mirror. I didn't rush. I studied the face reflected there. Hollowed cheeks, pale skin, a temple bandaged beneath matted hair. I touched the edge of the dressing, not to feel pain, but to remind myself I was real, alive, still mine. People say blood is thicker than water, but I've always known the truth. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. They chose absence. I choose boundaries. I didn't cry. Instead, I folded the papers, pressed them against my heart, and whispered, I forgive them, but I won't forget who they chose to be. The camera of memory zoomed out slowly. The hum of machines, the ache of old wounds reopening, the heavy silence after trust is shattered. They left me to die quietly, but death doesn't follow a script, and neither do I. The salt air greeted me before the lights. As I stepped onto the veranda, the sea breeze carried the hum of laughter and soft, clinking glasses. The estate's lanterns danced against the dark horizon, painting golden strands across water. Everyone was there, Meredith and Jessa in smiles sculpted by convenience, Caleb standing awkward beside them. I walked in wearing white, silence folded around me. I placed a tiny recorder inside my locket and slipped it on. I looked rested. They looked relieved. Meredith greeted me as though nothing had changed. You look rested, she said with smooth politeness. Jessa offered a hug. Her arms felt cold, like empty promises. I smiled back. My every step was calculated. I kept studying faces, warm voices dripping with feigned concern. I raised a glass of wine and stared at the reflection on the glass. I tasted salt and regret. I heard music, but my focus was a quiet hum of caution. I would watch. I would listen. I wouldn't play the part they expected me to play. Later that night, I drifted past the upstairs study while people drowned in conversation below. The hallway light was dim. I heard muffled voices through the vent. Hushed, urgent. Delaney's calm tone. If she finds out about that account, we're exposed. Then Meredith. Then she can't find out. If she digs deep, Caleb will say she's unstable. My breath froze for a second. My hand trembled, then steadied. I slipped out my phone and hit Save to Cloud. The recorder in my locket captured each word. I walked back to the party with a casual nod, raising my glass quietly. Their smiles didn't reach their eyes. Meredith approached later, offering herbal tea. Cool and calming, she claimed. I smelled herbs, felt a metallic edge beneath the steam. I knelt by her tray, pretended to sip. I held the mug, pretending thirst. But I twisted away, excused myself. Inside the small bathroom, I rinsed a tiny vial into a sealed bag I carried always, old habit from before. I pressed my forehead to the cold tile, breathing slowly. I thought, always believed the quiet woman. She might be wiping footprints. I opened the window a sliver and stared at the ocean lights. I dialed Malik. Send this to your contact in lab. I need confirmation. A storm building quietly behind calm waves. I whispered to the night, this isn't betrayal. It's premeditated character assassination. Back in the living room, I cleared my throat and said softly, I arranged a little surprise. I angled the smart TV on, lights dimming around the room. A feed opened, smooth calm. I hit play, an old file from my cloud archive. The dated audio started, Meredith's voice cold. Let's sell the stocks before the coma turns permanent. Caleb's voice followed, uneased. The room froze. Delaney's hand flew to her chest. A glass slid from someone's fingers, a soft crash. Candles flickered. For the first time, animated faces drained color. Some guests turned away, murmured, moved toward the door. I remained still, quiet, focused. I said softly, "I don't need to manipulate you." The truth echoes louder than any lie. Meredith's eyes widened. She didn't speak. She left. The door closed behind her with a final click. Minutes later, she returned, face pale, red-rimmed eyes. She spoke to the remaining guests, voice shaky. I loved her like a daughter, but after the miscarriage, she's been fragile. She blinked hard, tears glistening. My breath caught. That grief wasn't hers to claim again. My silence held its weight. I stepped forward. Every eye turned. I spoke clearly. When people can't bury you, they dig up your past to decorate their pity. I pressed play. A short, trembling message. My mother's voice, calm and firm. If they silence you, let my voice speak. The room went cold. Candles guttered. One by one, guests drifted toward the door. Meredith sank into a chair. She didn't argue. She couldn't. I didn't shout. I didn't plead. I didn't beg. I turned and looked at each face, not with anger, but with clarity. "I don't need justice tonight," I said. "I only needed light." I lifted my locket. The tiny red record light glowed in the dim room. I opened the voice recorder app, pressed share, and let it upload quietly to a private channel, a channel built for memory, truth, and survival. I stood still and watched as whispers filled the room, as shadows stirred, as silence finally started to crack. I didn't come to fight. I came to remember who I am and remind them who they aren't. Morning light filtered through tall windows, casting long beams across the polished mahogany table. The boardroom was quiet, too quiet. I walked in wearing a charcoal gray suit, my heels echoing softly on the marble floor. High-profile trustees sat around me, their faces polite, expectant. At the head, Richard cleared his throat, about to begin. I stepped forward, each step measured. I placed a thick binder on the table. Its weight felt right in my hands. No one moved. "This isn't a coup," I said, voice calm, precise. "It's a course correction, and you all know it." Beside the binder lay notarized power of attorney papers, trust activation documents, and a pre-signed override clause. Signed by my mother a year before the accident, witnessed by a state attorney. The room stirred. Papers rustled. Caleb's face paled. Delaney beside him shifted in her seat. Meredith remained still, eyes fixed somewhere beyond me. I raised my gaze over the trustees. "My name is Aurelia Vance. I hold sole authority over the family trust. Effective immediately." Silence stretched. A few opened their packets again, checking the legal stamps. A quiet energy passed through the room. The top moment when power changes hands, but the world hasn't yet decided whose side it stands. I added softly, "I didn't come to replace anyone. I came to reclaim my name and everything tied to it." The binder thudded as I closed it. That's when I saw the twitch in Caleb's jaw. I didn't need cheers. I only needed confirmation. The seat was mine legally, irrevocably. Minutes later, doors opened again. Marcus Rowe stepped in, briefcase in hand, followed by a hospital compliance officer. Marcus held up a stack of documents, internal hospital logs from the night of my awakening, sworn testimony, and a physician's affidavit. The compliance officer nodded solemnly. They confirmed what I already knew. Intake records had been altered. My arrival had been logged as psychiatric emergency, not coma recovery. The text threads they displayed, messages between Delaney and Meredith, revealed their plan. If she's declared unstable, we can argue she's unfit. A cold hush fell. I stood, heart steady, spine straight. When you weaponize health, I said, you forfeit compassion. Heads turned toward me. Some blinked, incredulous. Meredith's hands clenched tight in her lap, nails digging into skin. I leaned forward, gaze locked on hers. It's not illegal to dislike me. It's criminal to erase me. She didn't reply. The accusations hung in the air. Then I reached into my pocket, pressed play on my phone. A 12-second clip filled the room. Caleb's voice from the party, soft and indifferent. Let's hope she stays in a coma for good. Makes everything easier. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a chair scraped back. Faces turned away. Some parents gasped. A few tried to argue, but the weight of betrayal silenced them. Caleb's lips trembled. That wasn't worry, I answered quietly. That was relief. The kind you feel when a problem removes itself. Someone murmured. Others shifted their gaze. I said, louder, firm. I didn't need your protection. I needed your presence. That's something you can't fake in recovery logs. You could almost hear the world tilt. I didn't ask for vengeance. I didn't demand destruction. I offered clarity. I opened my tablet and displayed the trust's holdings, shares, real estate investments. Then I announced the decision. I was liquidating their spa chain investments, merely turning off the tap. Within hours, stock values plummeted. The estate's value cratered. I watched the spreadsheet numbers fall like dominoes. Meredith erupted. You heartless girl! Her voice cracked. Her composure finally shattered. I held my ground. Calm. Clear. You taught me that survival means control. I simply listened too well. A murmur ran through the room. One by one, lawyers and trustees rose, collecting their briefcases. No one spoke. Before I left, I paused at the door looking at them all. Ghosts of loyalty and denial. I spoke softly, but they heard. Redemption isn't loud. It's exact. Outside, the September air felt thin. I exhaled. I didn't smile. But for the first time in months, I felt the weight of silence lift from my shoulders. The contract had been settled. Not with bullets. Not with shouting. With truth. With law. With calm resolve. I didn't destroy them. I made them watch their own collapse. I didn't claim vengeance. I claimed what was always mine. Because some debts don't need to be paid with fury. They settle themselves when the ledger opens and the balance becomes undeniable.